Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lexi's Book Nook, and I am Lexi. I am your host. This is my BookTube channel. I also have I have a podcast, not two, called Lexi's Book Nook, where I'll discuss all things books, book club recommendations, and Reese Witherspoon picks. So you're here on BookTube. So you are currently getting a bonus episode from me and my podcast which is found on Spotify for free. I will have 2 episodes per month. The first episode will be about the books that I will be reading for that month, book club picks from the 2 book clubs I'm in, Reese Witherspoon picks from the previous year, and then books on my TBR list while trying to stay in theme for that month. And then that second episode of the month, I'll have read most or all of those books, and I'll summarize, give my review on them, and then a couple of discussion questions to keep it open for you, my audience. And you can always contact me through my website, lexisbooknook.com, to add to the discussion if you'd like. So that's on Spotify for free. I also have a Patreon account. For $3 a month, you get to see my face, my book nook, get inspiration for your own, get to see the book covers, and that will help support the podcast. So you get all those benefits for only $3 a month. And then we have my BookTube account right here, where you get all that content plus bonus episodes. And those are going to be books that are beyond the TBR list that I've read for the podcast episodes. So today's episode, we'll be discussing All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. And since you're on my BookTube account, you get the benefit to see the cover art. So here we go, and I apologize for the glare. I already returned my book. It was my sister's. She gave it to me, and I passed it on to my family because we're a big Colleen Hoover fan. So I don't have the physical copy on me, but you get to see the copy on my phone. And then I'm going to go into my discussion questions, my summary, and my thoughts. So we're going to start off with my summary. All Your Perfects is about Quinn and Graham's love story, the heartache of infertility, and the impact it can have on a marriage. 7 years into their marriage, Quinn and Graham slowly drift apart. Quinn has given up hope for having a child, and Graham is the main source of emotional support for the family. Both believe that they aren't enough to make the other happy. Can a box of love letters to each other be enough to convince Quinn and Graham that Graham loves and understands her? And when we get to those box of love letters, bring a box of tissues, because I was weeping. My boyfriend had no idea why I was crying. He didn't understand it, but it was very, very cute, and the love letters are beautiful. So make sure you bring a box of tissues for this book, because it was really hard to finish. It was so heartbreaking on how sad Quinn was, how Quinn and Graham's beautiful love story was falling apart, and how much love they have for each other despite their category 5 hurricane moments, or the significant moments in their life that were going wrong. I cried so hard near the end, especially during those love letters, but I could not put the book down. It was really good, beautifully written. The love story is so touching, but on the bright side, there is a happy ending, so please read it. It's going to be worth all the tears. I'm going to just go over a few discussion questions. So if you want to read this for your book club, here are some questions for you. Or if you want to start your own book club, here are some questions that you can add to the discussion. And if you have answers for me on these discussion questions, you can contact me. Or if you want to add more questions or add to the conversation, I have a website called lexisbooknook.com. That is spelled Lexie. And you can always contact me to start more of a discussion with me. But we're going to go into the first question. Sitting in the hallway outside Ethan's apartment, which is Quinn's ex-fiance, Quinn cracks open a fortune cookie that reads, "If only shine light on your flaws, all your perfects will dim." How does this foreshadow the present-day scenes in the novel? And I love this fortune. I want this. But I think this message foreshadows all of the now moments in the book. Every chapter is either labeled as now or then, so past and present. But I think Quinn sees her infertility as a flaw and takes it to a much deeper, more hurtful meaning. By doing this, she forgets all the happy, perfect moments in her life, such as buying a new house, getting promoted in her job, not needing to go into the office as much, and being able to work remotely. So she forgot all these perfect moments, all the perfects in her life, and thus dimming all her flaws, which is her infertility. So I think that fortune foreshadows everything that happens in the now moments that Quinn forgets about or doesn't, or she takes for granted. So that is my answer for number 1. The next question: Quinn and Graham's marital problems stem from miscommunication, misunderstandings, and secrets. Why is it so hard for Quinn to express her feelings to Graham? Why does Graham pour his heart into letters only to lock them away in a box? I think it was hard for Quinn to express her feelings to Graham because she had developed depression, especially with each infertility process. She became a shell of herself and internalized all of her feelings. So it was very hard for her to really express them. And it wasn't that she wouldn't communicate, but she couldn't. Like it's part of depression. Everybody's depression is different from each other. She needed extra help, additional support outside of Graham, and she didn't have it. She also didn't want to burden Graham with all her feelings and her negative thoughts and energy, so that's why there was no communication. She loved him so much that she wanted to give him all the things she couldn't provide, and she just internalized everything. She wanted so much from him, and she wanted him to be a father to the point that she considered divorcing him just so that he can have all the things that he couldn't have with her. So it's really like selfless love, but to a fault, and she didn't want to express any of these to Graham because she was afraid of hurting him or burdening him or making him feel bad for the situation when she saw her infertility as her flaw. But on the other hand, with Graham, he was able to communicate his feelings, but chose not to. Instead, he wanted to save them for the worst moments or like the category 5 moments. That way, he kind of figured that they would weather the storm together and make things work and have these letters in the case that it didn't. So it would be like the last case scenario, the worst case scenario, and these letters can bring them back to each other. He didn't think that things would get so bad to the point that both of them were considering divorce, but just in case, the letters were there to remind Quinn of Graham's love for her. But I do think this is a flawed system. He should let Quinn access these letters at any point so that when she was feeling at her lowest or when Graham sees her truly struggling, he could give her a letter to remind her that Graham loves and supports her, that he can't express through words, but he can on paper. So he could communicate, but he chose not to, which I don't like. So the last question. On page 71, and pull out your book if you want to pull this out, as she's getting over Ethan, Quinn thinks, when you associate yourself with another person for so long, it's difficult becoming your own person again. However, think about everything Quinn has gone through to have a child with Graham. In what ways has she lost her identity to the concept of being a mother at any cost? Is she truly doing this for herself, for Graham, or for the people they imagined they would be 10 years from their wedding night? So I kind of touched this in the previous episode, how she wanted parenthood for not just her, but for Graham as well. But there are moments in the book when Quinn's mom and her mom's friends constantly nag Quinn, like, when are they going to have children? So, but I don't think that this was something that Quinn wanted to have just to please her mom and her friends. She always wanted children. She even expressed that on page 71. When Quinn and Graham borrowed Quinn's stepdad's beach house, they asked 20 questions to get to know each other even more. Quinn expressed her desire to have a family. After going through all her IVF courses and that emergency hysterectomy, Quinn lost all possible identity to be a mother. So Graham and Quinn tried to adopt as well, but Graham had a mark in his record that prevented them from adopting. So understandably, Quinn lost all hope to become a mother, and that was her sole identity. Even though she wasn't a mother, she really wanted it. And then there's this moment in the book, not on page 71, when Graham was at his sister's house to meet his new nephew, and Quinn was coming later. She overheard her sister-in-law and Graham talking, and Graham said something along the lines that his sister said that he would have been made a great father, and Graham said, yeah, but it's just not in the cards for me or something. And they were both upset that Graham couldn't be a father, and it broke Quinn's heart, and she wanted so much for him to be a father, knowing that he would be a good one. She didn't want a family just to shut out people's thoughts on her, like from her mom and her mom's friends. She really wanted it for Graham as well, not just for herself and her identity, but for Graham. So it's a very, very sad book. It's also like one of those trigger books that if you are struggling with infertility or you know someone who's going through it and it's just a really touchy subject, you may not want to read this book. but it's a very, very good, touching book, and there is a happy ending. So I really hope that you still choose to read this. If you want to buy your own copy, you can go on my website, lexiesbooknook.com. That is spelled Lexie, on the bookshop page, and you can see all the books I've read so far this year, and you can buy your own copy of any book that's listed there. I will make a commission off of your sales at no extra cost to you. But check out my website while you're there. I also have podcast episodes. And again, my podcast is on Spotify for free, but if you want to promote or support the podcast and get all the benefits of seeing my face, my book note, get inspiration for your own, and see the book covers, that is only $3 a month. So I hope that you enjoy this episode. We are done for today. I hope you keep listening, and I hope you keep on reading.